The Galactic Unity Accord was an agreement made between many worlds across the stars. It brought peace after years of fear and distance. Different species had once stayed far from one another, but now they were learning to live and grow together. The Unity Council decided that one of the best ways to build trust between species was through cultural exchange. This included knowledge sharing, shared homes, and sometimes even ceremonial pairings. On the peaceful world of Elyser, the Eldari people lived quiet lives. Their cities were filled with soft lights, floating bridges, and homes made of glowing stone. The Eldari spoke in calm voices and moved with quiet grace. They did not rush. They believed in patience, balance, and listening to things that could not be seen. Among them lived Torin. He was a records keeper at the Unity Archives. He, like silence in old books, he was not someone who drew attention. But he was kind, careful, and known for his steady nature. So when the Unity Council asked for a volunteer to join a ceremonial pairing with a human visitor, Torin agreed without complaint. The council told him that the human had already been chosen. Her name was Mira. She came from Earth, the human homeworld, and was the daughter of one of Earth's Unity diplomats. The pairing was not meant to be romantic. The council explained it was meant to build understanding, to show that two very different people could share one space and learn from each other. Torin prepared his home for her arrival. He cleared a second room and filled it with soft lights. He added a few human touches, like a sitting chair shaped more comfortably for a human bag. He even placed a small pile of bright earth flowers by the window, hoping she would feel welcome. He did not expect her to smile or thank him. He only hoped she would be at ease. When the ship arrived, Torin stood at the edge of the docking platform. Mira stepped out of the craft, carrying the bags and a sealed travel crate. She wore a long gray coat and simple boots. Her black hair was tied back. Her eyes moved across the platform quickly, but settled on nothing for long. Torin gave a polite greeting. Mira gave a short nod. No words came. She followed him without question. As they walked to his home, inside, Mira placed her bags down in the guest room. She did not ask questions. She did not look around much. She kept the crate close by her side and placed it under the window, where the sunlight touched the floor. Torin offered her a warm drink made from Eldari fruits. She took it, but drank only a little. That night, they shared their first meal. Torin prepared something simple, a mix of grains and slow-cooked roots. Mira said it was fine but did not eat much. She stared at the table as if her thoughts were far away. Torin spoke gently, asking if she needed anything. She said no. Then, she stood and thanked him quietly before walking to her room. Torin watched her go. He did not feel insulted. He had read that humans needed time to adjust to new worlds. Still, there was something more than distance in Mira's voice. She did not seem rude or angry. She seemed tired, not the kind of tired sleep could fix. Over the next few days, Mira stayed mostly in her room. She came out only for meals or short walks through the soft gardens near the house. She did not ask to see the city or meet others. When Torin asked if she wanted to join him at the archive, she gave a polite no. She was always calm, never unkind. But there was a coldness in her, a wall that could not be touched. Torin respected it. He had no reason to push her. The pairing was not meant to force closeness. It was only meant to offer the chance for it. Still, Torin noticed things. He noticed that Mira kept the crate locked at all times. She never left it behind. It was human-made, dark and metallic, sealed with a keypad lock. It was not large, but heavy enough that she moved it with both hands. Sometimes she would sit beside it and place her hand on top without speaking, as if it were a quiet companion. One afternoon, while Mira sat under the garden tree, Torin returned from the market with some small fruit. Pastries. He placed a few on a plate and brought them outside. These are made with sweet stone fruit, he said, setting the plate beside her. Not too heavy. I thought you might like to try them. Mira looked at the plate. Then she looked at him. Her expression did not change much, but she gave a short nod. Thank you, she said. Her voice was soft, low. They sat in silence for a while. Torin did not speak unless spoken to. After a few minutes, Mira took a bite of the pastry. She chewed slowly, then looked up at the sky. "It's quiet here," she said. Torn nodded. "The quiet is part of our balance. We listen more than we speak." Mira nodded slowly. Then she stood, took the rest of the pastry with her, and walked back inside. Torn stayed under the tree for some time, watching the wind move through the leaves. He did not feel discouraged. Something had changed in her voice, just a little. Perhaps it was not much, but it was something. The next day, she joined him again in the garden. She brought a small book from her world and sat nearby. She did not speak, but she stayed for a while. For Torn, this was enough. The human bride was cold and distant, but she had come a very long way, and Torn believed that sometimes warmth took time to grow. He looked at the crate sitting by her side. He wondered what it held inside, but he did not ask, not yet. Torn kept to his gentle routine. He woke early, tended the small garden behind the house, then walked to the Unity archives where he worked with old records. In the evening, he returned home, cooked a light meal, and left space at the table. For Mira, sometimes she joined, sometimes she did not. Mira lived like a shadow in the house. Her footsteps were soft, her voice quiet, her presence light. She used few things and left no mess behind. Her room stayed closed most of the day. The only sign of life inside it was the soft hum of her old earth device, which sometimes played music in the evening. The songs were slow and sad, full of soft piano and faraway voices. Torn never asked her to talk. He believed in silence when words were not ready, but he also noticed more than he let on. Mira rarely looked out the window. She didn't spend time learning about Eldari ways like the other human guests in the city. She didn't send messages home. She stayed with her crate, her thoughts, and her long silences. The crate never left her sight. It was shaped like a box, used for personal cargo, dark gray with a strong metal edge. A keypad on the front lit up when touched. Mira never opened it in front of anyone. She had placed it beside her bed near the window, where sunlight reached it every morning. Sometimes, Torn saw her sit near it, staring at nothing. Her hand often rested gently on the lid. One morning, as Torn set out to cups of warm leaf tea, he asked softly, "Would you like to see the market hall today? The breeze is good, and the glass ceilings show the sky." Mira gave a small nod of thanks but shook her head. "Maybe later," she said. Then she sipped the tea. Still standing near the door. Torn didn't ask again. He simply sat down and began to read from a new archive scroll. The room remained quiet. Mira stood for a few moments, then placed her cup on the table and returned to her room. That evening, a small storm passed over the city. Eldari's storms were not loud or violent. The sky turned soft purple, and light rain fell like mist. It made the glass roof of the house glow with a calm shimmer. Torn stayed near the window, listening. The wind carried the scent of garden flowers and wet stone when the lights flickered from the storm's soft current. Torn glanced toward Mira's room. He heard movement. A moment later, she appeared at the doorway. Her hands were gripping the sides of her crate. Her eyes were wide but not afraid. She moved the crate slightly, then sat beside it on the floor, her head lowered, and her lips moved very softly. Torn could not hear the words. He looked away and gave her space. The next morning, Torn found her in the garden, sitting quietly under the same tree as before. The crate was not with her, but something was different. Her shoulders were less tense. Her eyes moved more slowly, taking in the view. He brought to small cups again. Mira accepted hers and drank a little. "Do you ever miss Earth?" Torn asked gently. Mira looked at the trees, then at her cup. "Sometimes," she said, "but I left it long ago." Torn waited. She didn't say more. The silence between them was not heavy. It was something shared, like a path they walked without words. Torn did not fill it with questions. He simply stayed. Later that day, Mira came into the kitchen while Torn was preparing a light meal. She watched him place the root slices into the cooking bowl. "Do you eat this every day?" she asked. "No," Torn replied. "Some days I make green broth or grain noodles. This one is simple, easy to eat after long thoughts. She gave a soft sound that might have been a short laugh. Torn looked up, surprised. Mira looked away quickly, but she stayed while he cooked. That night, she ate everything on her plate, not quickly, but without leaving half behind. When she finished, she placed her hands gently on the table. "This food is good," she said. "Thank you," Torn replied. After a moment, she added, "It reminds me of something from home. My father used to make a dish with roots and garlic. It didn't taste like this, but the shape was the same." "Do you miss him?" Torn asked. Mira nodded once, then stood up and carried her plate to the wash station. She said nothing more. As the days passed, small changes began to appear. Mira began to open her window in the morning. She walked in the garden without being asked. She helped water the plants. She even joined Torn at the archive once, where she walked slowly between the tall glass shelves. She didn't read, but she looked, and yet the crate remained closed. One afternoon, while Mira was out walking, Torn cleaned the common room. He moved a few cushions, dusted the floor, and adjusted a small wall light. He passed by Mira's open door. He didn't enter, but from the doorway, he saw the crate under the window. Touched by sunlight, it looked the same as always, yet it seemed heavier than before. Not in weight, but in meaning. He wondered again what was inside, but he told himself it was not his place to ask. That evening, Mira returned early. She brought with her a small flower from the public garden, its petals a soft blue. She placed it on the table. "For the room," she said. Torn smiled. "Thank you." Mira looked at the flower, then at him. "Do your people believe objects can carry memory?" she asked. "Yes," Torn answered. "We believe they hold feeling from the hands that use them. That's why we keep old things carefully." Mira nodded slowly. "I think the crate remembers more than I do." She walked away after saying it, leaving the words behind like a quiet gift. Torn didn't follow. He simply looked at the flower and thought about her words. The human bride was still distant, but now her voice carried questions. Her eyes saw more than before. The crate still waited in her room, but maybe someday soon it would open. And when it did, Torn would be ready to listen. The days on Elisa moved slowly, like the rivers that flowed through its crystal valleys. The air always felt gentle, the sky always calm. Torn had lived on this planet his whole life. But now, each day felt slightly different. It was not the world that had changed, but something inside his quiet home. Something was shifting in small and careful ways. Mira no longer avoided the kitchen or the garden. She didn't smile often, but her silence was no longer cold. It had become softer. There were moments now when she would ask a short question or comment on the weather. She didn't speak much about herself, but she listened. That alone was enough for Torn to notice. Still, one thing remained the same: the crate. It never moved far from Mira's room. She placed it near the sunlight every morning and rested her hand on it often. Sometimes she would sit beside it for a long time without moving, as if waiting for it to speak. Torn respected her space, but his curiosity grew with each passing day. One evening, as golden light filled the sky, Torn sat across from Mira on the small sitting bench in the garden. He had just watered the tall glass leaf plants. Mira held a warm drink in her hands. They watched the winged lights dance through the air. They were small creatures with thin, glowing wings that only appeared at twilight. Mira watched them for a long time before she spoke. "Your world is quiet," she said. "Yes," Torn replied. "Many of us choose to live this way. Peaceful minds grow stronger roots." Mira gave a small nod. "My world is not like that," she said. "I know," Torn said, "but you carry part of it with you." Mira turned her head slightly. "You mean the crate?" "Yes," Torn answered. "It is clearly important to you." Mira looked down at her hands. She held the cup tightly, though the drink inside had already cooled. "It is," she said, after a pause, "but it is also heavy, not in weight, but in memory." Torn waited. Mira didn't speak for a while. She seemed to be choosing her words. "With care, you can ask," she said finally. "Everyone wants to Torn looked at her carefully. I do wonder, he admitted, but I will not ask if it causes you pain. It already does, Mira said. Asking does not make it worse. There was a long pause. Torn looked up at the sky, then back at her. What is inside? He asked gently. Mira placed her cup down. She ran her fingers along the edge of the bench. Her shoulders seemed to sink slightly, as if letting go of something she had been holding for too long. Things I could not leave behind, she said. Some are small, some are broken, but all of them are full of meaning. I brought them because I could not imagine going anywhere without them. From your family? Torn asked softly. Mira nodded. Double quotes, yes, she said. My family. And someone else, someone who never got to leave Earth. She didn't say more. And Torn did not press her. The light faded slowly. The winged lights disappeared. The wind moved gently through the tall garden trees. That night, Mira did not close her door. She left it open a small amount. Torn noticed it as he passed by with the dinner plates. He didn't look inside, but the open space felt like a small invitation. In the morning, Mira was already awake when Torn entered the main room. She was sitting at the table, her crate beside her. Her fingers rested on the keypad, but the lid remained closed. I haven't opened it since I came here, she said. Torn sat across from her. Would you like me to be here when you do? Mira looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded. I think it's time. With slow and careful movements, she entered the code. Each number lit up as she touched it. A soft beep followed. Then the lid opened with a quiet click. Inside the crate were a few items, not many, but each one was placed with care. On top was a folded piece of cloth with blue and white lines. Torn did not know what it meant, but he did not ask. Next to it was a small, round object with a screen. Mira picked it up and pressed a button. A quiet song began to play. It was slow and warm, with gentle strings and soft voices. The music filled the room like a memory. This was my brother's, Mira said. He made songs, not for work, just for fun. He gave this to me before he joined the colony program. She placed it gently on the table. Torn looked at it with respect. It still plays, he said. Double quotes, yes. Mira said, even after everything. She reached into the crate again and pulled out a drawing. It had been folded many times. The edges were worn. She opened it carefully. It was a simple picture of two people holding hands under a large tree. The sun was drawn with yellow pencil in the top corner. My little cousin made this, Mira said. Before the fires. She said it was me and her, standing in our garden. The tree was real. The sun was not always so bright, but she liked to draw it that way. Torn said nothing. He looked at the drawing, then at Mira. She placed the picture on the table beside the music device. I packed these things in a hurry, she said. But I knew I would need them, not for comfort, for truth. These remind me who I was before Earth began to change. She took out the last item, a small wooden toy, shaped like a bird. The paint was faded. My mother carved this when I was a child. She taught me how to hold it gently. It's one of the last things she gave me. The room fell into silence. The music had stopped. The crate was empty now, except for a small pouch that Mira did not open. Torn looked at the table. These were not just things. They were moments, stories, people. I understand now, he said. You did not come here to leave Earth behind. You came to carry it forward. Mira nodded. I was afraid to open the crate, she said. I thought it would make everything feel more real. But now that it's open, I feel lighter. She placed the lid down gently. The crate stayed open. Torn stood and walked to the shelf. He picked up a small crystal and placed it on the table next to Mira's items. This is from my first memory walk, he said. The shape means new beginnings. Mira looked at it, then at him. Thank you. That night, Mira moved the crate to the shared sitting room. She placed it near the low wall light, where its contents could rest in peace. It was no longer a box full of hidden weight. It had become part of the home. And for the first time since her arrival, Mira slept with her door slightly open. Mira now walked through the house with a lighter step. She no longer avoided the shared spaces. Sometimes she stayed near the garden, sitting under the tall tree with a small book or just watching the wind move the leaves. Other times she sat in the kitchen while Torrin prepared meals. She didn't speak much, but she was present. The crate remained in the sitting room, no longer hidden or locked. The small items inside were placed on a shelf nearby. Torrin never touched them, but he often glanced at them with quiet respect. They had become part of the house's story, just like Mira had. One morning, as the sky glowed with soft gold, a notice arrived from the Unity Council. A full habitat check would take place in 3 days. These checks were part of the Unity program, to make sure homes were safe, clean, and following the peace rules. For most Eldari homes, the check was simple, but for mixed-species homes like Torrin's, there were more things to prepare. Torrin read the notice, then looked around. His home was always clean, but the council asked for clear records of all personal items and any technology brought from other worlds. This meant Mira's crate and her things would be included. He didn't want her to feel worried. Still, he had to tell her. Later that day, he found her near the garden path, watering the plants. "There will be a home check in 3 days," he said. "They will ask for a list of all items brought from Earth. If you like, I can help prepare it." Mira paused. She nodded slowly. "All right," she said. "It's time." Together, they moved to the sitting room. The small shelf held her items in a neat row. She sat on the floor and placed the crate in front of her. Torrin sat nearby, holding a writing tablet. Mira picked up the drawing first. "This is paper," she said, "from Earth. Made by hand. Not dangerous, just memory." Torrin nodded and made a note. Next, she held up the music device. Battery powered. Very old. Still plays some songs. No harmful parts. Torrin smiled as he wrote. "Your brother made the songs." "Yes," Mira said. "He always added soft background sounds, like wind or trees." She placed it down gently. Then came the wooden bird. "This is no metal or tech," Mira said. "Only carved wood. My mother made it when I was 5. "And the cloth?" Torrin asked. She touched the folded fabric. "It's a flag. A small one. From our family home. Not from any country. Just a family piece." Torrin wrote each item with care. He asked no questions beyond what was needed. Mira noticed this and gave him a small nod of thanks. Then she reached for the small pouch. It was the one item she had not opened before. She held it in her hands and looked at Torrin. "This one is personal," she said, "but I will include it." She opened the pouch slowly. Inside was a tiny round stone, polished smooth. It had a line of writing in a soft, faded color. Torrin leaned closer. "What does it say?" he asked. "It's a name," Mira said. "His name?" Torrin said nothing. Mira held the stone gently, then placed it back in the pouch. With the list complete, they began to clean the rooms together. It was the first time they worked side by side for more than a few minutes. Mira helped dust the shelves, sort through unused items, and wipe the walls. She moved with care, not fast but steady. At one point, Torrin found an old Eldari scroll rolled behind a shelf. He showed it to Mira. "This tells a story about wind spirits," he said. She smiled slightly. "Do they speak only in dreams?" Torrin said. She placed the scroll gently on the reading table. As the second day passed, they organized the storage room. Mira folded unused blankets, and Torrin sorted through tools. They moved boxes, cleaned the floor, and made space for new records. Mira stopped when she found a small silver object inside one of the Eldari drawers. "What is this?" she asked. Torrin took it and turned it in his hands. "It's a story crystal," he said. "It holds a memory from long ago. Would you like to hear it?" Mira nodded. Torrin placed the crystal in a small reader. A soft light appeared, and a voice spoke in Eldari. It told the tale of a traveler who carried pieces of the sky in her pocket. She gave them away to strangers who needed light in dark places. In the end, her own path became clear. Mira listened quietly. When the story ended, she looked at Torrin. "I like that," she said. "It reminds me of you," Torrin replied. Mira looked down for a moment, then gave a small smile. on the final day. Before the check, they sat on the floor of the main room, tired but calm. The house was clean, quiet, and ready. "Thank you for helping," Mira said. "You helped as well." Torn said, "I didn't think I could," Mira said, "for a long time. I thought I was only supposed to carry the past, not live in the present." Torn looked at her. "You are doing both," he said, "and you are not alone anymore." They sat in silence for a while, not the silence of distance, but the silence of peace. When night came, Mira placed the crate back in her room, but she left the lid open. The items inside were no longer hidden. They were part of her space, her story. She stood by the door and looked at Torn. "Would you like to listen to one of my brother's songs?" she asked. "Yes," he said. She pressed a small button on the music device. A soft tune began to play. The sound filled the room with gentle notes, slow and warm. They listened together. And for the first time, Mira did not look like someone who was only visiting. She looked like someone who belonged. The morning light came slowly over the city of Elixir, casting long shadows through the glass roof of the house. Mira sat by the window, watching the soft movement of the garden leaves. The song from the music device played quietly in the background, a steady reminder of the past and the hope of the future. Torn entered the room carrying 2 cups of warm tea. He placed one beside Mira and sat down on the floor near her. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. Mira looked at him and nodded. "Double quotes better than before," she said. "I think I'm ready to try new things." Torn smiled gently. "Good," he said. "I thought today we could visit the city hall. There are many stories there, and sometimes meeting others helps us feel less alone." Mira hesitated for a moment, then said, "I would like that." Together, they left the house. The city was alive with quiet activity. Eldari moved gracefully along wide paths. The tall buildings glowed with soft lights. There was a calm energy, not loud or hurried. At City Hall, people gathered to share news and learn from each other. Mira felt a small flutter in her chest. She was a stranger here, but she was not invisible. A kind woman approached them, her bright eyes full of welcome. "Hello," she said. "You must be new to Elixir. I'm Lena, one of the council helpers. If you need anything, please ask." Mira smiled shyly. "Thank you," she said. Lena spoke to Torn briefly, then turned her attention back to Mira. "Would you like to join the cultural group? We meet weekly to share stories, music, and food from different worlds." Mira looked at Torn. He nodded with encouragement. "I would like that," Mira said. That afternoon, Mira and Torn walked through the city streets. Mira noticed how different the colors were here compared to Earth. The plants, the sky, even the clothing people wore. It all felt new and strange, but also beautiful. They stopped at a small market where vendors sold bright fruits and hand-woven fabrics. Mira touched a soft cloth and smiled. "It feels like home," she said. Torn laughed softly. "Maybe we will find a new kind of home here." As days passed, Mira joined the cultural group. She listened to stories of distant places and shared small pieces of her own past. She didn't speak much, but her presence grew stronger. One evening, after the group meeting, Mira returned home with a small gift. It was a simple wooden box, carved with patterns of leaves and stars. "For you," she said, handing it to Torn. He opened the box carefully. Inside was a tiny crystal, glowing with soft light. "It is called a memory stone," Mira explained. "It is meant to hold good thoughts, to remind you of moments that matter." Torn held the stone with gratitude. "Thank you," he said. "I will keep it safe." The next morning, as Torn prepared breakfast, Mira entered the kitchen. "Can I help?" she asked. Torn was surprised but pleased. "Of course," he said. Together, they cooked simple food, sharing small stories about flavors and customs. Mira laughed softly when she tasted a dish with spicy herbs. Torn enjoyed hearing her smile. After breakfast, Torn led Mira to his workplace, the Unity Archives. It was a place full of old records and history. Mira walked slowly through the tall shelves, touching the smooth glass and polished metal. "Do you like it here?" Torn asked. Yes, Mira replied. It feels like a place where stories live. Torrin showed her some of the oldest records tales of explorers, travelers, and new beginnings. Mira listened with wide eyes. You make history sound alive, she said. Torrin smiled. We all make history, one day at a time. Their days grew fuller with small adventures and quiet moments. Mira opened up bit by bit. She shared memories of Earth, the sounds of rain, the smell of pine trees, and the feeling of soft grass underfoot. Torrin shared stories of Elisir, how the winds whispered secrets, and how the stars guided the first Eldari explorers. One evening, as they sat beneath the tall tree in the garden, Mira looked at Torrin. Thank you, she said softly, for helping me find new paths, for being patient when I was lost. Torrin reached out and took her hand gently. You are not alone anymore, he said. And you never were. Mira squeezed his hand lightly. For the first time, she did not feel cold or distant. She felt something new. Hope. And as the stars shone above, the house on Elisir became not just a place to live, but a place to belong. The morning sun spilled light over the rooftops of Elisir. The air was fresh and soft with the scent of wildflowers from the nearby fields. Mira stood by the window of her room, watching the sky as it slowly changed from pink to blue. The house felt warmer now, not just because of the sun, but because of what had begun inside. Torrin entered quietly with a small tray. On it were 2 cups of steaming herbal tea and a plate of fresh fruit. He smiled gently when he saw Mira. Good morning, he said softly. Mira turned and smiled back, a real smile this time. Good morning, she replied. They sat together at the small kitchen table. The sounds of the house waking around them filled the space. Outside, birds sang softly and leaves rustled in the breeze. Torrin watched Mira for a moment. Are you ready for today? He asked. Mira nodded. I think so, she said. The council visit was kind, but it made me think. I want to do more than just live quietly here. I want to help. Torrin's eyes brightened. That is a good thought, he said. Your help will be welcome. After breakfast, they left the house and walked through the city streets toward the community center. It was a bright building with large windows and open doors inside. People of many species gathered to work on projects that helped the planet. And its people. Mira looked around, feeling both nervous and excited. Torrin led her to a small group sitting around a table covered in papers and tools. Everyone. This is Mira, Torrin said. She wants to join and help. A woman with kind eyes smiled and stood. Welcome, Mira, she said. We have many projects, but right now we are working on a new garden to help feed the city. Would you like to start there? Mira nodded. Together, they walked to the garden site. The soil was soft and dark, waiting to be filled with seeds. And care. Mira worked alongside the others. She learned how to plant the small seeds deep in the ground, how to water without flooding, and how to protect the young plants from the small creatures that might eat them. As she worked, she felt something open inside her. This was not just about carrying memories from Earth. It was about building new ones here, with people who cared. Torrin stayed nearby, helping where he could. He watched Mira smile when a tiny green sprout pushed through the soil. It was the first new life she had helped create on Elisir. After the work ended for the day, Mira and Torrin walked back home. The sky was painted with colors of sunset orange, purple, and soft gold. Mira stopped for a moment and looked at the horizon. This place is becoming home, she said quietly. Torrin took her hand gently. Home is not just where we live, he said. It is where we feel safe and needed. Mira looked up at him. Thank you for helping me find that. That night, Mira sat near the window with her crate open. She took out the small wooden bird her mother had carved. She held it softly in her hands and whispered, I am ready. Torrin stood nearby, watching. He knew she was not just ready for the council's next visit. She was ready for life. In the days that followed, Mira's confidence grew. She shared stories during community meetings and helped with small tasks. She even started to learn the Eldari language, practicing words with Torrin when they were alone. One evening, as they sat in the garden, Mira looked at Torrin and asked, Will I ever feel like I belong fully here? Torn smiled. Belonging takes time, but you are already part of this world. Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time, I believe that. And under the soft light of the stars, two hearts found peace and a shared path forward. The morning sun warmed the garden gently. Mira stood beside the tall tree, the same one where she had once sat quietly, lost in thought. Now, she felt different. The air around her was lighter. The world felt fuller. Her crate of memories sat quietly on the shelf in her room. Still important, but no longer a weight on her heart. Torn joined her outside, carrying a small basket filled with fresh fruits and herbs from the community garden. He smiled when he saw Mira. "Good morning," he said softly. "Good morning," she replied, her voice steady. They walked together to the garden where the city's new plants grew strong and green. Round them, others worked too, smiling faces, soft laughter, the busy hum of life. Mira looked around and felt a deep warmth inside. This was not just a place to live. It was a home built with hands and hearts. Later, at the community center, Mira stood before a group of new rivals, humans and others from far worlds. She shared her story, quietly at first, then with growing strength. "I was once afraid to stay," she told them. "I held tightly to my past because the future seemed too unknown. But here, I have found something I did not expect, a place where I belong." The group listened with kindness. When she finished, Torn stood beside her, proud. After the meeting, Mira and Torn walked home. The city lights sparkled like stars, and the soft wind carried whispers of hope. At home, Mira opened her crate one last time. She touched each item with care: the drawing, the music device, the wooden bird, the cloth flag, and the memory stone. These were pieces of her old life, and now they were part of her new one. She looked at Torn. "Thank you," she said, "for helping me unpack not just my things, but my heart." Torn took her hand. "You have given me more than I could ask," he said. "You brought a new story into my life." Days turned to weeks. Mira and Torn continued to build their life together. They shared meals, stories, and quiet moments beneath the stars. One evening, as they sat in the garden, Mira looked up at the sky. "The stars look different here," she said. "But they feel the same." Torn nodded. "Stars are the same everywhere. They remind us that we are part of something bigger." Mira smiled. "I'm ready now," she said. "Ready to live fully here, with you." Torn's eyes shone. "And I will be here with you, every step, under the vast sky of Eliezer." Two souls connected, no longer cold or distant, but warm and close. They had unpacked more than just things. They had unpacked hope, trust, and belonging, and that was the greatest gift of all.